All right, well, welcome. Thanks for everybody taking the time today. It's a unique and challenging time in our game and in our society. Unknown complexities, timelines, and things like that. But I do appreciate you taking the time. Hope everybody's safe and healthy. This is a day that we've put a lot of time and energy into identifying our head coach and our coaching staff. I think you've received the release. It's probably one of the longest press releases I've seen. So obviously Scotty Emmert had too much time on his hand, but it's an important time for us. One of the most important decisions a GM makes is the coach and the coaching staff. We've used our time very well to analyze how we want to play, the ingredients we want to build in a coaching staff. Because as I say, it's not just the head coach, it is the ingredients and the people that he brings around him. So as of today, we are announcing Bob Boughner as our ninth head coach in San Jose Sharks history. We're adding a couple of people that we think their resumes speak for themselves as far as what they've accomplished in the game. They are people that, to me, has the presence and command, I think, to have the respect of our veterans, but also be able to teach and grow our younger players and allow them to flourish. As we've gone through this, I mean, we're not used to having a blip or a bump in the road like we did last season. That is on us. We did not accomplish and meet our expectations. When that's happened in the past, we've gone to work, made some adjustments, but often the changes truly came from the core of our team, and we feel it's the same situation now. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Having gone through this with Bob and talked about how the clarity of how we want to play, the attitude that we bring, and being connected as a group. So what I'd like to do is just share the roles that people are going to be in. Bob, when he gets on, can share even more specifics in that. Bob will be a coach. Rocky Thompson will be our associate coach, which will oversee the power play and the D-man. John Madden will be the assistant coach. He'll oversee the forwards and penalty killing. Evgeny Nabokov will be our goaltending coach. Mike Ricci will be the NHL player development coach. Danny Darrow will be the assistant coach in video. Charlie Townsend will be the hockey analyst assistant to the NHL coach. We're very fortunate to have a man that stepped in last year and is one of the most important guys in our organization, Roy Sommer. Roy will be the head coach for the San Jose Barracuda. We've also got Michael Chason, Jimmy Bono will be there as assistant coaches. John McCarthy, our former captain, the Barracuda, will be there as the development coach. We've hired Danny Sabran as the goaltending coach, and Nick Gialdini is the video coach, hockey operations. So when you look at situations like this and you have unknown timelines, you've got to get the work done and be prepared for whenever you start. But I do know this, having the quality of people that know our team, know our organization. Bob has been here for a while, and one of the decisions and thought processes in making this decision was much like a couple other teams in the league, whether it be Boston or St. Louis or Pittsburgh, had head coaches that had come from within their organization, very familiar with the young players in the organization. It was their second coaching opportunities for Bruce Cassidy, Mike Sullivan, Craig Berube, much like Boogie. And then being able to build the staff that you want and that you need. And so that's really how this process has taken place. So I'm very pleased to make this announcement today that Bob Boughner is the head coach for the San Jose Sharks.
All right, great, Doug. Thank you very much. Again, for our Q&A here, I'm going to ask you guys to utilize the hand raise function, which is under the participants tab at the bottom. I see a few people have already utilized that, but just if you wouldn't mind hitting that icon, and then as I call on you, I'll go ahead and unmute your line and go ahead and ask your question for Doug. So, Doug, if nothing further, we'll go ahead and start the Q&A if you're ready.
That'd be fine.
All right, perfect. We'll go ahead and start first with Kevin Kurz.
Hey, Doug, how you doing? Wanted to ask, you've mentioned this a couple times, but you know, Bob will be in his second full-time job behind the bench, including Florida. How will that help him from your standpoint, taking over the full-time job here?
Well, I think it's a product of experiential learning. I mentioned a couple other guys in the league that I have great respect for. They got their second job. And I think if you ask every one of them, they'd say they did things a little differently, or they utilized some of the knowledge that they had from the first time. And I also think the fact that they came from within the organization, they knew a lot of the younger players. They had the support of the rest of the staff. A head coach, and that's one of the things I really like about Boogie, and it started last year when I put him in a very difficult situation mid-season, not having his own staff and obviously having some key players out. But how he handled that revealed a lot to me. Very inclusive. He integrated everybody. He's very open-minded and looking to find solutions. And also being able to identify this type of staff that I really was very impressed with Boogie through the process, that identifying these type of people that are winners, they're competitive, they got attitude, they love the game of hockey, which is kind of a contagious feeling. We felt that was really an important part of Boogie, but having that experience that he's done this before, coming in and building on that experience from before.
All right, next we'll go to Curtis Pichelka.
Hi, Doug. How many candidates did you interview for this position, and when did you finalize the decision to name Bob the full-time coach?
Well, I think the background. I mean, going way back when I first took this job, I did really extensive coaching searches because you learn from listening. I did talk to people. I talked to a lot of people over the years. I talked to a lot of people this year. But I think you all know I was very transparent that Bob was probably the front runner for several of the reasons I just mentioned before. We just wrapped it up this week. And one of the reasons is it's not just Bob, it's the type of staff that he built around him. It's not just building a staff for what the coach needs. It's for the ingredients that the players need. And I think when Boogie presented it to me and we looked at it, he said, you know what, I think you really acquire the right people with the ingredients that you said you were going to find. And so we wrapped it up in the last week. We got the contracts done. And while we don't know when training camp for the season is going to start, having our staff in place during this time is really important.
All right, next let's go to Pierre LeBrun.
Hey, Doug, hope you can hear me.
I can, Pierre.
All right, I'm not always the best on these Zoom things here. Can I ask you about Rocky Thompson? You named him an associate coach, and that's been a trend certainly over the last decade or so. I think at the time Rick Bowness was an associate in Tampa to John Cooper, and the importance of sort of another senior voice there. What do you think he brings to the bench there with Bob?
Well, I've been really impressed getting to know Rocky. I knew of him. I was very aware of him winning the Memorial Cup with Windsor. The job he did in Chicago with the Wolves was very impressive. And then getting to know him, he's a great example. Don't judge a book by its cover. Type of player he was, obviously commanded respect, and he took care of his teammates. Very creative mind, very offensive based, like running a power play. Fascinating guy when you sit and you talk with him. And reminds me a little bit when I was fortunate to have John Ferguson Sr. work for us. We're one of the toughest guys that ever played, but he appreciated talent. He appreciated skill. He had the ability to look at a game differently than you thought he would. But I think Rocky, his presence, his toughness, his work ethic, his creativity, he brings juice and energy. I think he's going to be ideal for our group, and I think our players are really going to enjoy being around him. He will max out playing a way that matches the type of personnel that we have, activating your defense, doing some things differently in the power play. So we think that power play is a really important part of the game today, and Rocky brings some great knowledge in that area.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, let's go to Sheng Peng.
Hey, Doug.
Sheng?
You talked about Rocky, but also you're bringing in new to our organization besides Rocky, John Madden and Danny Sabrin. So can you talk about what stood out about Madden and Sabrin?
Well, John Madden, 3 Stanley Cups, 1 in college hockey. I mean, he is a winner. He has got a brilliant hockey mind. I think he coaches the way he played the game. All 3 zones, looking for edges in play. I think him coming on board is really important to us. He coached down in Florida for a while. He coached in the American Hockey League, so he's used to developing younger players, next man up mentality when sometimes people go down and get called up. Bob Boughner came to me, mentioned his name, interviewed him. I got to talk with him. I then did my research with some people that have known him very well and talked about him. And he just fit right the ingredients that Bob said that he was looking for in a forward / penalty killing coach. So you put the pieces together, just like a good hockey team, you become the sum of all your parts. But John is extremely competitive, bright guy. Between him and Mike Ricci working with our forwards all the time, it's going to make our guys better.
All right, we've got one or two more questions here in the queue. Just as a reminder, there's a participants icon at the bottom of your screen. If you click that upward arrow, it will allow you to raise your hand if you have a question for Doug. And we'll take a few more for Doug, and then we'll bring on our new coaching staff. Next question, let's go to Curtis Pachelka again.
Doug, you mentioned how you know how this team, how you want it to play. When you look at the Dallas Stars, the success they're having, the New York Islanders, the success they had playing a certain defensive, with a certain defensive structure, is that how the San Jose Sharks need to play?
Well, you don't necessarily want to copy other teams, especially in a year like this that could be an aberration, but there's things that both those teams do that, yes, how they defend. I mean, they defend their goalie. Their goal differentials are very good. They might not score as much or more than some of the top teams in the league, but how they play, they're extremely connected with their game. And yes, I mean, we talked about this last year, and I thought Boogie started working on a few of those things. You got to take care of your zone. One of the things that was unique to us being the best team in the league of man-short penalty killing, yet the worst team in the league defending 5-on-5. And Dallas and the Islanders both are extremely good defensively. They allow their goalies to make saves, very committed to each other. They play the game the right way. So it's not just mirroring what they do, even though you admire and respect it, obviously. But we identified last year that's an area of commitment and attitude, which is certainly have been bringing up to me for the last little while. It's imperative that we address that.
Let's go back to Kevin Kurz.
Yeah, Doug, obviously you don't know when the season's going to start, and you've said in the past that you plan on quickly returning this team to the playoffs. Has anything changed in regards to your plan for the offseason? And assuming it hasn't, how much roster, how much do you have to do to maybe reshape this roster?
Kevin, the one thing and I've talked to a lot of veteran GMs the last little while, this is the most unique time in our game. We don't know when we're going to start. I mean, the complexities in going forward, the amount of time between games could be 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, who knows? We're all in the same boat. The cap is flat, obviously, and we don't know. So it's just a unique time. I can't really compare it to any other year that we've had. I mean, there's other years where, only 2 years, I guess, in the 18 years that we didn't make the playoffs, and we returned the next year, and it was the core of our team that really kind of got us back on track and led the way. And make no mistake, our best players have to be our best players. What we do around the edges, I do believe that you have to have young players flourish and evolve and grow and be part of it. I think we saw a group of them last year in the second half get those opportunities, and that has to continue. But it's just such a unique year. We have a draft where we have 3 picks in the top 54. The ingredients that we're looking to add to our group, this draft is full of those ingredients. So do I see us potentially using all those picks to draft players? Depends how things fall, but it's a very good draft for what we need and what we've identified to look for. So, there's years where, we've integrated younger players and gone on and made the Western Conference Finals. There's years that we had to bring some players from the outside. We're going through that process right now, which direction we're going to go on it. The draft will dictate that a little bit. The belief system and how we want to play. And as I sit with our coaches and players that we think internally that can step in and maybe in certain roles make a difference, that's the process we're going through right now. And all I can say is it's different than any other year that any of us have ever had to deal with. The decisions we make will be unique, and we're formulating that plan as we speak.
All right, let's go back to Pierre.
Doug, I know last month that the 7 teams that didn't get to play in the bubble tournament, the 7 GMs sent in a unified proposal to the league about getting a bit of a longer training camp than the rest of the league when, you know, we flip the page to next year. And Bill Daly has talked about with us, he's talked about talking to the NHLPA about it. A, have you heard any news on that? And B, how important do you think it is, given that with Gary Bettman saying that next season may slip into January, teams like the Sharks will have gone 10 months between competitive games?
Well, that's one of the things that's really difficult. I mean, we're sitting here, we should be in training camp or having had a development camp, and the 24 other teams were able to and earned the right to be in the bubble, have a training camp, have their younger players experience some play-in games and playoff games. The 7 teams were not, and you know, we didn't earn that right by doing that. Now your question is exactly right. You know, when and how do we get to grow our players? We've got a group of players that we've assigned over to Europe. We've got to make some decisions on some other guys. Will we get some extra time prior to camp? Those negotiations haven't taken place. We don't have a final answer on that. It would be nice to have some lead time before we start up next season. What that's going to be, we don't know yet, but it's a factor into some of our decisions. You know, Kevin Kurz's question before, it's different. We've never gone that length of time. When you do come back, you know, which players can step up and play? Is it a compressed schedule? What are the concerns on that? It's just a unique time that, you know, we have to deal with. It's unfortunate, so unfortunate what society is dealing with. So ours sounds like a, you know, small problem compared to that, but it is an issue that I know the league and I think the players and Players Association are open to exploring, giving us that chance to get ramped up a little bit.
We've got a couple more here for Doug, and then we'll bring on our coaching staff. Let's go back to Shane, and then we'll go to Curtis Pashelka.
Doug? So finances, you know, being different as they are now, you know, fans may not be able to attend for a little while. Can you say if the Sharks intend to spend to the cap next year?
Well, we're very fortunate that we have an owner that allows us to do that. And it's not just on the hockey team, building rinks, you know, taking care of our Barracuda team, the importance of developing your young players, having an environment that does that. So Hasso gives us the ability to do that. I feel he's one of the best owners in sports because he wants us to have everything that we need. He wants the players to feel part of the organization, part of the community. So yes, we have the ability to spend to the cap. Obviously with the cap, because of what's happened, staying flat and where it's at, that's impacted every team in the league. We're fortunate we have some room. How we utilize that room and our other assets are going to be important decisions that we have to make in the next little while. But going to the cap is something we have the green light to do, yes.
Curtis?
Hey, Doug. Do you guys, oh God, I just forgot my question, but we're about 2 weeks away from free agency, 2.5 weeks. At this point, are you comfortable with letting your UFAs go to market, or do you still have hopes of getting those guys under contract before they go to UFA?
Well, we have conversations. I mean, we've always been active in UFA, whether it be you know, taking care of our own players, signing extensions to existing guys, bringing some guys and making trades. This one's unique. Whether or not the UFA market is flush with players, you know, that's to be decided by every team, I guess. Talking to our own guys, we've had conversations, and you know, it's as we now have our coaching staff in place, their input is important too on players that they know, how we want to play, who fits, how we want to play the game. There will be some adjustments that Bob started last year in season. There'll be a few more that matches our present personnel, and some younger guys that are in the organization might be able to flourish even more. So those are the conversations that we're having right now. And then when we get to the marketplace, we'll make those decisions. Getting to the draft, what we do with those picks, because we do feel it's a very strong draft in the areas that we're drafting.